you need to give your body enough rest. It was 1 hour in the morning, the 6 period 1 hour, the 1 hour in the weight room after that, and then 2 hours of football practice. That was 5 hours of being, just so active, burning so many calories, exerting yourself so much. And then on top of that, being a student athlete, I still had to go home, stay up, do my homework, study, and all this. So realistically, how much sleep was I getting? Not that much. And when you do this much work and don't give yourself enough recovery, eventually it's gonna catch up to me. And unfortunately, in 9th grade, that's when it caught up to me. What's up everyone, David here, got a new video for y'all today. But before we get into it, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification so you don't miss out on any new videos. Remember, new videos every week. So today we're gonna take a little bit of a trip to the past, back to 2014, when I first decided, you know what? I'm gonna try my hand at this gym life. I wanna get big, I wanna get swole, I wanna build up some gains, but I was doing it wrong from the beginning. There were plenty of mistakes that I've made that I'm going to explain to you today, so you don't have to make the same mistakes that I did. You avoid these mistakes, especially if you're a beginner. That way you can make more progress first starting off than I did. So first things first, biggest mistake I made was simple. I wasn't eating enough. So for those who don't know, I was always on the skinnier end. I was always a smaller built frame, very lengthy limbs, just wasn't big, very skinny. I didn't quite understand the concept of I need to eat big to get big. I thought just working out alone was gonna get me the results, which, obviously it did a little bit, but really, you gotta pack on the pounds by eating endless amounts of food. Depending on your body type, you can calculate all of that. So I grew up as a wrestling fan, big fan of WWE, as I'm sure many kids were. And just like many other kids, I'm like, oh, I wanna grow up to be a wrestler. I'll tell family members that, like, they knew I was into wrestling and all that. And one of the biggest things I always heard them say was like, well, if you wanna be like them, they're big, you gotta eat more. Because even they knew I wasn't eating a lot. I just never had that big of an appetite. I mean, going to school, my lunch was just like a peanut butter jelly sandwich, a ham sandwich, a bologna sandwich. I mean, realistically, how many calories is that? How much food is it? It's really not a lot. It wasn't until 9th grade where I finally decided to make the change, where I'm like, you know what? I'm already X amount of years into it, probably like 2 years into this lifting journey. I need to gain more weight. I need to start taking this diet a little bit more serious. I finally started grasping the concept of, you gotta eat big to get big. So I went from eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for lunch to actually start packing the typical, chicken and rice. I'm pretty sure everyone else started off like that because they saw that's what the bodybuilders were doing. And it wasn't until then where I started seeing even more of a growth. So again, from the very beginning, if you're someone like me and you're on the skinnier end and your goal is to build muscle, gain weight, you gotta eat more. And luckily at the beginning, I was skinnier. I wasn't too concerned about overall health. I was just like, calories in, calories out. I was skinny. I was so active playing sports. So even if I eat junk food like donuts, I was still gaining weight. Now, going into currently, now I'm more health conscious. I'm still eating the high amount of calories, but I'm being a little bit healthier about where those calories are coming from. But bottom line is, you're a beginner, don't make the mistake I've made. Actually make sure you're eating enough, especially if you're trying to gain weight. Second tip was my rep schemes. I wasn't quite doing it right from the beginning. What I mean by this, I would always do a certain amount of reps per muscle group without really understanding why. Here's what I mean. I would go large phases of doing the big compound movements, like, those big mass builders, like the pressing, the rowing, the squats, the deadlift, and those big movements that work so many different muscle groups that are gonna give you the most bang for your buck. I was doing only 1RMs for that. And if your goal is to gain muscle, then there's nothing wrong with doing 1RMs or like maxing out every week. But at the same time, typically, why do bodybuilders do 8 to 12 reps? Because that's what's been shown to work. And yes, you can still see results from 1RM, but realistically, if you want to build muscle, you got to go a little bit higher up on the rep schemes. But on the other hand, for leg days, when I first started, I didn't know who was giving out right advice. Again, I was barely like in the 7th grade. So I would think, all right, I heard one person say that squatting stunts your growth if you have the bar on your back because it compresses your spine and all that. So I was only doing sets of 20 on my leg days because I wanted to avoid having heavy weight on my back. It wasn't until I got out of that notion and I started going heavier and I started aiming for like 8 to 12 rep ranges where I finally started seeing more results or more growth in my legs. Again, so that was the mistake I made. I wasn't really varying my rep schemes very much with all my sets. I was either doing big phases of 1RMs for all the big lifts, when in reality I should have been doing the 8 to 12 rep ranges, 3 to 4 sets or 3 to 6 sets each exercise, instead of just doing one top set every day. And then for legs, I was just repping out I was pretty much doing more of a HIIT workout for legs more than an actual bodybuilding type of workout. So again, just don't make that mistake. Mess around with the rep schemes, see what works best for you. If you want to build muscle, most likely it's going to be 3 to 6 sets of 8 to 12 reps. Third mistake was I was not recovering enough. And I feel like this is one of the biggest mistakes that other beginners make. It doesn't even matter if their goal is to gain weight and build muscle or to lose weight, lose fat. You need to give your body enough rest. Just to put in perspective how much we were doing is, in high school, I was in football and track, and typically spring semester, track season, was always rougher because that was the off season for football, but it was the in season for track. We had 6 a.m. weight room for football. During 6th period, which was, the sports, that's when I did the track workout. I threw the shot put in track, so that's when we did there. Afterwards, class ended at 3, so after school from 3 to 4, it will be the track workout specifically for shot put. So again, another session in the weight room, but now just slightly different exercises to throw the shot. And then after that, in the evening, now from 5 to 7, or I think it was like 5 to 7 or 4 to 6, whatever. It was like a 2-hour block after that where now it's football practice. So you see, I'm doing 4 workouts per day. It was 1 hour in the morning, the 6th period, 1 hour, the 1 hour in the weight room after that, and then 2 hours of football practice. That was 5 hours of being, just so active, burning so many calories, exerting yourself so much. And then on top of that, being a student athlete, I still had to go home, stay up, do my homework, study, and all this. So realistically, how much sleep was I getting? Not that much. And when you do this much work and don't give yourself enough recovery, eventually it's gonna catch up to me. And unfortunately, in 9th grade, that's when it caught up to me. I ended up tearing my hamstring. And it could have been from, it was when I was sprinting, but ultimately it could have been from the lack of not eating enough calories. We already established that I was a big eater. It could be the lack of sleep. It could be the lack of just pushing too much. But overall, it all added up to just not recovering enough. You have to give your body a break. You could only push for so long until you give out. The analogy I always like to give is, think of it like you're driving a car. You can drive your car for hours on end, but eventually if you don't stop to refill gas, eventually you're not gonna get anywhere. Same thing with your body. You could push for hours on end, day after day, week after week, month after month, but eventually your body's gonna give out if you don't give it that rest, okay? You gotta make sure you prioritize that recovery. Get enough sleep, get enough rest days between training muscle groups. Make sure you're eating enough. Your calories are fuel. Food is fuel, nothing more. So make sure you take all those things into account. Prioritize the sleep. That's the biggest one. I really want to drive that point forward. Fourth mistake I made was, realistically, I didn't have a why behind my workout. And what I mean by that is the specific exercises I was doing, I didn't really understand why I was doing it. It's more like I was just following what others were doing. On football, I was following what the older veteran players were doing, kind of just seeing on YouTube, oh, well, this guy is built, let's just do what his workout routine. But I didn't really cater it to me and what's my why. Why am I doing this exercise? Every exercise in your workout program should have a specific reason as to why you're doing it. If you're training for strength, trying to build up your squat, and you're doing this type of squat variation, well, why are you doing that? For example, if I have the tendency to round my back forward when doing squats, well, I'm gonna start training front squats to practice keeping my torso upright. That's my why. If I struggle with the bottom portion of a squat, well, I'm gonna do box squats because it helps me build more strength at the bottom portion. You see, there should always be a why behind certain exercises. If you're emphasizing so much incline bench press, what's your why behind it? Well, it's because my upper chest is lacking. I want to build it up even more. If you're emphasizing a little bit more on the lateral raise, it's because my shoulders are not wide enough. You see, there needs to be a why. There has to be a reason behind your exercise selection. I wasn't doing that. I was just either doing the workouts that the coaches were having me do. I was just doing the workouts because this YouTuber did it. I was just doing it because this is what these players were doing. So I figured they know more. They've been working on longer than me. But I didn't really know why. And as a result of that, I wasn't seeing the results that I wanted, or I wasn't seeing the performance I wanted. So me wanting to gain more size, I needed exercises that worked these certain muscle groups. I need to train them this often. I need to do it this many sets of reps. If this muscle's already overly developed, like for example, my back was always a strong point, why am I spending so much more time emphasizing my back? Why am I not working on my weak points? You see, there needs to be a reason why. If you can't answer why you're doing certain exercises, most likely that program is not the best for you and you're not seeing the max amount of gains that you could be seeing. Fifth mistake I made was I wasn't prioritizing as many working sets. And this kind of go hand in hand with the second mistake that I brought up earlier about how on certain movements I was only doing 1 RMs. When I had that mentality of I just need to work up to 1 heavy set, that's it. I will move on to the next exercise and then work up to a heavy set. And realistically, I was just doing 1 good quality set where I was struggling. and that's it. And if the workout program said 4 sets of 8 reps, realistically, it wasn't 4 sets. It was more just 1 set of 8, because those first 3 were warm-up sets leading into it. I was counting the warm-up sets as good quality sets. And realistically, that was just cutting my progress short. So let's just say you need to train a muscle group with 6 working sets to get the amount of stimulus, the amount of response you want to see the growth that you want to see. But if more than half of those are warm-up sets, then realistically, you're cutting your progress in half. Why not just do a couple warm-up sets that you feel are needed, and then after that, start your working set number 1, working set number 2, working set number 3. Remember, warm-up sets do not count. I wasn't prioritizing the working sets, but what I was prioritizing was the amount of exercises that I was doing, thinking that that was the right answer. I thought the more exercises I do, the more results I'll see. For example, on chest day, I'd be doing 5 to 6 chest exercises, but in reality, I was just wasting so much time, because again, if I was just working my way up to 1 working set for each exercise times 6 exercises, in the end, it ended up being 6 working sets of chest. Now, currently what I do is I only do 2 to 3 chest exercises, but I do 2 to 3 good quality working sets for each exercise. So by the end of my workout, what I have done was 6 to 7 working sets for that muscle group. So again, that's the mistake I made. Don't concern yourself with so many different exercises you need to do. That realistically has nothing to do with the amount of growth you're gonna see. What does matter is how many working sets you've completed. So if you wanna do 6 different exercises, but only do 1 working set for each, okay, that's fine. Or you can just stick to 1 exercise and do it for 6 good quality working sets. You'll see better results, and plus you'll save time. You don't have to constantly be unracking the weight, move on to the next machine, rack it, do your 1 set, and rack it, and it saves all this time of doing your warm-up sets. At the end of the week, it doesn't matter how often you train that muscle group, it doesn't matter how many different exercises you did, what matters is total weekly volume. How many working sets did you do for that particular muscle group at the end of the week? And that's what I was not understanding back then, but now I got that down. Now I'm starting to see more results faster than I have previously. At the end of the day, don't make the same mistakes that I did. I was young and dumb, I didn't know who to listen to, I didn't know what I was doing, and it delayed the amount of progress I could have made. So don't do what I did. Make sure you're eating enough. You wanna get big, you gotta eat big to get big. Don't just do a certain amount of rep schemes thinking it'll work for them, so it's gonna work for me. No, find out what works best for you. Some people, they work better with higher weight, lower reps. Other people are vice versa. They work better with higher reps, lower weight. Make sure you're resting enough, all right? You can only push for so long. Don't think that the more you do, the more results that you get. No, eventually your body needs a break. Take advantage of those breaks. You'll progress yourself even further if you prioritize your sleep and eating enough calories throughout the day. Understand why you're doing certain exercises, all right? Every exercise in your program should have a specific reason as to why you're doing it. If you're just throwing in random exercises thinking it'll get you results, it probably will, but it'll be better if you take the time to realize what works best for you and know that that's the reason why you're putting it inside the program itself. And lastly, it doesn't matter how many different exercises you do. What matters is the total weekly volume. Don't worry about doing this exercise. I need to do bench press, incline bench press, flies. I gotta do dips. I gotta do cable crossover. Now I gotta do dumbbell bench press. No, you don't need so many different exercises. What you need is good quality sets, working sets. Volume takes precedence over number of exercises. Again, those were the 5 mistakes that I personally made. Please avoid doing this. You'll be surprised at how much more progress you make if you were to take these things into account and actually do something about them. Give this video a like if it was helpful for you. Comment down below what were some mistakes that you've made or what you have learned over the years from your lifting journey. Comment down below also any other video suggestions you'd like to see me do, whether it be about diet, nutrition, mindset, motivation, exercise, workout program, or just anything fitness related. I'll be more than happy to help you all out. Make sure you subscribe to not just my channel, but my girlfriend's channel, this couple's channel, so you miss out on any new videos. Remember, we got new videos every week across the board for all 3 channels. And then for Instagram and TikTok, same thing. Make sure you follow me on my accounts, girlfriends, couples. I put all the links down in the description below. With that being said, I'll catch y'all next time.